And here we go. This is Ungovernable. I am Matt. This is Jocelyn. We have an interesting episode this week. We might have Shane Hazel. I don't know. There was a little bit of a scheduling conflict, so we'll see if Shane ends up popping on. Hopefully, he can make things work and get on. If not, we'll get him rescheduled. But a reminder at the top of the show: like, comment, subscribe, share, help us out with the algorithm. We're not monetized on YouTube or, well, I guess we wouldn't even have the opportunity of being monetized on Facebook now, but Facebook or, any of the other traditional platforms, we do receive crypto if you upvote us on Odyssey or on Vim.tv that we're streaming on the Hive blockchain on. And a reminder, if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, please do us a favor on the podcatcher of your choice, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, any of the other ones. If you like our content and you're listening to us regularly, please give us like a rating or like an upvote or whatever on that platform to help us out with the algorithm. So, all right, you want to talk about the wine really quickly?
Our son picked it, right?
Yeah, he picked it out. Yeah.
I love the name.
We're getting them started early.
Folk tree. Folk tree.
Yeah,
tree.
folk tree. Here, I'll
I
hold it up for the camera here. Ooh, if I can get it to work.
It's a pretty label.
Folk Tree Pinot Noir from California, 2018. We have like this little wine shop around the corner from our house. And they like hand pick the stuff. It's not like a mass,
what's the name of it?
Distributed. Yeah, it's a Montivino is the name of it.
I think there's like two in New Jersey.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah,
one in Princeton maybe.
But they do like their prices aren't that bad either. They have like
gotten a bad wine there.
They have a really wide variety of wine, and so we were actually talking today and have been for the last couple of days, talking about trying to do a lot more of patronizing local, not large businesses, and specifically not like mega conglomerate corporations and stuff like that, and doing as much business as we can away from that.
I have failed.
No, it just becomes, actually, we can talk about this here at the top of the show. But I think this is extremely pertinent to the. Oh, you all right? I'm like,
I failed.
I'm cringing that this cork might hit me in the eye.
Okay.
So this goes along the line of decentralization, being ungovernable, and kind of living away from these centers of centralized power. Really supporting local community and things like that. You don't do that by buying from Amazon, or you don't do that by going to Target or whatever, if that's your default, right? You definitely end up using those outlets as a convenience because they're everywhere, because they're so big and they have so many things. But I think the other thing is that, well, a lot of their products are shit. I mean,
they're not anywhere like the local organic places that we have. Like the local coffee shops have the best coffee.
Yeah.
But it makes me think about my trip to the Apple store today.
Oh, okay. We can talk about this lunacy too, because this is right in the same line as I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people come to expect a certain level of customer service when. Oh, I haven't even tried it yet.
A little less sweet. Is it citrusy? Do you taste the citrusy?
Yeah, it's a little. It's like tart. Yeah.
It's
interesting.
Clean.
Yeah,
it's nice. I don't know anything really about.
For a Pinot Noir, it's actually kind of a stronger. Yeah, we're getting so bougie right now.
What?
This is not a wine review program, by the way.
Isn't, but it's good.
And this bottle of wine was like $15. Like, it wasn't that expensive. But it was really nice. I was talking about people come to expect a certain level of customer service.
With Apple, I mean, I've been with
at like
forever.
a big company, right? Like with billions of dollars in freaking resources and thousands of employees and shit, and computer systems that are supposed to do God knows what, and just give your overview of your trip.
I have to get a computer because one of our computers like just won't turn on anymore. But it's from 2011.
Planned obsolescence, by the way.
Yeah, it's from 2011 and it hasn't been able to update operate. Whatever. I have to get a new one. And
here we are talking about patronizing local establishments, and you're like, I'm getting an Apple computer. Yeah.
Yeah. To get Alan to
build you one. Yeah. But you don't like Windows
then
either.
It's Microsoft and I can't do.
I can build you a Linux one. We could build you a Linux one if you want to deal with that. But so anyway, that's a different topic.
But I've been to the Apple store forever. And
Mhm.
I used to go in there and they would know everything and they could help you and they teach you and you learn so much every time you went. They'd always give you a new trick. They knew exactly what you needed, how to get what you wanted,
Mhm.
So I didn't expect when I went in today, my computer's like 2011. So when I went in today to go in and what happened was I ordered the computer and then they said it wouldn't come. Well, it was supposed to be 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
And then they said it wouldn't come until the 7th of September, which I need it by September 1st.
Mhm.
So, and I ordered it on the 13th. I
Yeah.
mean, I know supply chain stuff, but, and then I ended up going into the store because like it can't come on September. So I said, if I just go to the store, they'll fix it. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So I go into the store to make an appointment and you have to wait outside while they're all like, who are you and why are you here?
Yeah.
And then I talked. I'm like, this is this is what I ordered.
Mhm.
And I really just need to have it come earlier. If I need to do a different color, that doesn't matter. If I need to do something to get it sooner, that's fine.
Yeah.
And she says, well, there's one in Bridgewater. You can pick it up probably in 2 days. And I said, okay. But she's like, but you should call first. I go, okay. First, she says, when she said call, at first I thought the Bridgewater Mall.
Yeah.
Apple. But that was later. She wanted me to call 1-800-MY-APPLE. And I'm sitting in an Apple store. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you can't take care of it? She's like, no, your phone, you can use your phone and call and sit over there.
Yeah.
And come and get me when you're done. And then when I called them, they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen, the whole Bridgewater thing.
Yeah.
And that I had to, then they said, well, if you order it and if you reorder it, it'll come between August 31st and September 7th. And she's like, but if that doesn't, that, and then I'm like, well, that doesn't help me because I need it by the 1st of September. And then she says, well, the best thing you can do is wait until the end of August. And if it doesn't show up, we'll just cancel your order.
Yeah.
And then I said, if they cancel my order, do I have to order it again? Will it come any sooner? And she goes, no.
No.
And I'm like,
then you'll be waiting another 3.5 weeks.
and I'm sitting there and all these Apple employees are on phones. They're not making eye contact. They just like tell someone to come bring you something and then they come and bring it. And,
Yeah.
I was like really disenfranchised by just having to need a computer today.
Even the humans are automated at the Apple store.
Yeah. Like Amy said, they need to plug in and get charged.
Yeah.
Their system needs to be updated.
They need an update to the firmware.
It is so different than it used to be in an Apple store.
Yeah.
When you used to go in, people knew what they were talking about. They knew their products. They knew how they worked. They knew how to help you.
Right.
These people are.
No, it's and quite frankly, I would come to expect just as good of a level of customer service now, if not better, at like a mom and pop.
Oh yeah.
Because
Well,
at the very least,
if
if there's multiple places, the person who's helping you at the one place should be like, here, let me call the other store. Like that's the way it used to be, right?
Yeah. And then I had to call the Bridgewater store.
Yeah.
And I said, wait, you can't call the Bridgewater store for me? She goes, no, you can. Do you need me to Google it on my phone, the number? And I'm like, I have my phone right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like that's your job. Like I'm in an Apple store, calling an Apple store.
You
like,
also literally work for Apple.
Right.
Shouldn't you know the other stores and have like phone numbers of the other store? Like you have to Google the location of your own store in order to find the number.
And then I had to tell my story 3 times.
Oh my God.
3 times.
Yeah.
I'm never getting anything delivered to a store again.
Well, no, not just delivered to
or even have to go to
we got to find a way around this whole Apple business. I know you're all
I don't want to do Microsoft. I just don't want to do anything Bill Gates.
Yeah. But
which is why I get stuck on Apple.
And I know you're accustomed to the Apple system, which is something that
but it really made me think, is Apple going downhill? Like that my first thought when I left there was like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have bought an Apple computer.
Well, no, I think the that kind of effect is happening throughout the entire supply chain and the entire economy. I mean, like it is super strange that Apple, who everyone comes to expect very quick turnaround time and high availability of these things, because Apple's usually the one that negotiates the best access to the components to build the stuff. even they, originally they online it was like, oh yeah, you'll get it in what, 5 days,
It
something
said
like
5
that.
to 7 days.
Yeah,
And then they just changed it.
and then they updated it to what, 3 weeks, something like that.
Well,
2
it was
weeks.
September 7th. I think that's like 3 or 4
Yeah,
weeks.
it's like 3 or 4 weeks away. Yeah, so I
It's
mean,
a
like,
long way.
supply chain disruption in full effect there, along with inflation, because the price is up as well. But yeah, so I think there's definitely something to be said about patronizing, smaller local
But what small store do you go to
establishments.
get a computer? I feel like you have to go to a big store.
Well,
no?
I can tell you that the full on anarchist answer here is to find a way to get a computer built and put a version of Linux on it that provides you some level of anonymity, so that they're not sharing your data. I mean, like, that's also what Apple does, is they basically hold your data hostage, and
They all do, though.
not
It's
to-
not just Apple.
not
It's
to
like
mention all your
everybody.
files and everything like that too. But yeah, I think that's the
I've
only
got some
alternative.
crazy files.
Well, yeah. We don't want any of them getting it. No, seriously, it's not that bad. But so anyway, yeah, like, I think that's the anarchist solution is
Linux. I don't even
build
know
a
what that
computer
means.
and then run Linux on it. Linux is very much similar to Apple or Windows. I mean, it's all a graphic user interface with icons and stuff like that. It's really not that much different. In fact, I have a laptop right here that runs Ubuntu. That's like an old Dell laptop that I wiped Windows off of, and I put Ubuntu onto, which is, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's one of the most recent versions of Linux. And so if you're not familiar with Linux is an open source operating platform.
I had to do some open source situation once, and it was so frustrating.
Yeah, but what you
I
have
thought
to be
I
more
was
specific.
I was going to throw my computer across
Well,
the
you have to
room.
be more specific.
I think it
What
was
was
like a Word documenty thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It
No,
was
no.
awful.
How long ago was this? Was it recent?
No, it was like 10 years ago,
Okay.
15 years ago.
The open source solutions that are available nowadays are at least comparable to most of these other things. Where you really see the shortcoming, I guess, of open source or whatever is sometimes something doesn't talk to something else.
Yeah.
And so then you have to find a workaround, or you have to shift to a new piece of
feel like you
software
have
or
to be
something.
more computer savvy than me.
But you definitely, you pay, maybe not in dollars, but you pay in other ways for the convenience of, this all-in-one kind of like Apple suite of things that controls your life essentially.
I just think it's going downhill. I've never seen their employees like that.
Yeah.
And I just, when leaving, I had this, like, my gut fell, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't have gotten an iMac. They're just going to go downhill. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Well, what's also crazy is that they just have none around. Like, that's also insane, know, which speaks to, by the way, one of the aspects of an inflationary or a stagflationary economy is things are more expensive, but they're also less available. And so less things end up getting sold. So despite the fact that they're more expensive, there's literally less total, iMacs available, and less total iMacs get sold, and that kind of thing, which is why, I mean, we've talked about it. I believe that this economy is basically a house of cards that's ready to fall. But that's another point for another day that we could talk about. So
I usurped us into Apple, but
yeah.
oh God.
So
shitty.
So yeah, maybe 3 days ago, I get a whole host of notifications from Facebook, and it's just post by post by post by post by post, and it just says, your post has violated our community standards
For
against
each one of your
against
posts?
spamming. Yeah, it's like literally 30 things that I had to respond
I thought
to
it was
and
like one
challenge.
thing.
No, it was like like all of them. And so it kept referring back to, so like a lot of our links are on a link tree page that's basically a landing page with all of our links. And so a lot of times, like, I'll put out the YouTube link, but then I'll also put out the Linktree link. And so some of them reference Linktree being, I guess they have a problem with Linktree now or something like that, which is really funny because Linktree was basically almost universally adopted for a while by people that use Instagram, which is owned by Apple.
I feel like
owned by Facebook.
I feel like lots of people put Linktree on Facebook whenever they're.
Yeah.
I mean, I have one friend who does it all the time. I don't think that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's just the excuse.
But it specifically said every single one of them was the same message. Your post violates our community standards against spam content or whatever. And then it gave a couple of examples of what were spam content. So repetitively posting the same thing over and over and over again, which is not true because every single one of our live casts is
Different.
something new or something. Now there are some snippets of the same verbiage in each one of the descriptions of the video. So like
But that's
last
because you have a
paragraph.
theme.
Right, but the first paragraph is always completely different, right? Because we're talking
Yeah.
about the episode. And then some of the other examples were like using bots and automated systems to get likes. I thought that was really strange that was in there. But that's definitely not something that we're doing. Otherwise, we would have more likes on our Facebook posts. But then, and I forget what the third thing was, but it was like, so essentially they labeled it as spam. So now I have to go through 30 different posts, and every single one of them, like a freaking monkey doing the same thing over and over and over again. Just I have to dispute it, and then I have to say, no, I don't believe that it violates the community standards. And then after that, it asks like, well, why? Like, and so like almost every single one of them, well, every single one of them, it gives you like a list of possibilities. It's like, 5 things and then other, and then the other is like fill in the blank. Well, the one I picked for every single one of them was like, I've seen other similar content on Facebook because I have, right? So every single one of them I go through on that. The like confirmation screen that you get after you go through that process, it says, thank you very much for your additional information or whatever. We will take this under advisement. Please understand that because of COVID-19, we have a limited workforce, and so your dispute may take a long time to be adjudicated or might not be at all.
Ugh, I can't believe that.
So we've labeled your stuff spam, and you now have to go through a process, which, by the way, none of our stuff can be seen by anyone now in public. It can only be seen by us, right? And then at the end of the process, when you dispute it, they have no timeline for getting back to you. And in fact, the timeline might be infinite.
Never.
Right? So what's the fucking point of the dispute process?
Why even dispute it?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
I don't. Facebook is weird though.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of, I don't know, but I'm surprised YouTube didn't stop you.
No, I mean, I've had other issues with YouTube's, like YouTube with I did one episode back in the day that had a lot of snippets of John Oliver's show, right? Like Last Week Tonight or whatever with John Oliver. I was talking about the national debt and how he doesn't understand it either, right? And so I had a bunch of these different snippets that were included in it.
Because you used his snippet,
and
that's why.
Yeah, and so they basically said, oh, well, you have a copyright strike because you use too much of it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, again, we were talking about copyright infringement the other day and how a lot of what constitutes copyright infringement nowadays is complete BS, because you're essentially using someone else's thing, and then you could be directing traffic or patronship toward it, But yeah, YouTube hasn't been that bad. I'm actually surprised because we talk about a lot of stuff. I think probably our subscriber count isn't high enough to hit the radar just yet, But yeah, that's really kind of like, that really started me thinking about, all right, we need to find another way to put this content out there, and make sure that we're kind of like masters of our own fate in a way, or making sure that we actually own our content. We don't have to worry about some random algorithm, kicking us out of the loop, So I think we're definitely going to work in the direction of having a standalone website where we can stream through the website. And then, some of these other outlets will put snippets out and short little excerpts from the full episodes and things like that for, to get people that are on those platforms still to kind of understand what we're talking about or something. But then, really try and push them towards the platform that we're able to kind of have some dominion over, So
I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if we can pull it off. The key is streaming is always a tough thing, and then storage of all the video is also a tough thing. So we will always have Odyssey. We will always have Vim TV. I'll even try and find a couple other ones that we can stream to, maybe in the meantime, like BitChute or what's the other one that's out there? There's another one that a lot of people use. Yeah. So, but as far as like video streaming, plus we always upload all of our stuff onto 3Speak. So the number 3 the word speak.tv. That's another Hive blockchain, basically a YouTube competitor. So yeah, I'll figure some more options out like that, and just stop streaming to Facebook because, apparently I'm
Well,
not
you
going to be able to
can't.
post anything. Yeah, no, it was, the
can't
only
at
thing I was
all.
allowed to post today was, essentially the announcement that we had our post censored by Facebook. And then I was able to put out a YouTube link, but that was it. Like I couldn't put out
It
anything
hasn't
else on
taken
there.
away the links,
Yeah, no,
but it just doesn't run the live
the
video,
the
right?
full lives, both the so like the other way it works is our streaming software puts out kind of like a placeholder post for the live cast, and then once the live cast is done, that post stays there, but you can no longer view it on that post. Then you have to go to the saved videos on Facebook in order to watch the video. And so there, for
that
every
sounds like a
single one
lot
of
of
the
work.
posts, there were two. Well, no, it's not like a manual process I have to do.
Yeah.
It's just something that happens on the back end between our broadcasting software and Facebook. But so every single one of those violations, or what they said was spam, was essentially two posts, right? Because it was the placeholder.
Maybe that's why
post
they
and then the
called it
live one.
spam, because it was two posts.
Well,
Is that possible?
I can't think that if that's the case, then we're not the only ones having the problem, because tons of people use StreamYard to stream to Facebook in order to stream their shows. So I can't think that this is a unique problem. If it is,
from, though, that's interesting.
I mean, maybe they come back through and they fix everything. I'm not holding my breath, but especially when they go back through and they actually do look at the content and they're like, 3D printing 101, what is this? What are we 3D printing? But so yeah, it's that was just really annoying, but it's really got me thinking about, all right, how do we get things put up in such a way that we have actually more control over it? Someone mentioned locals. So I know Michael Malice is on Locals. A bunch of influencers are on Locals.
I've never heard of it.
Locals is like, they kind of almost give you like a standalone web page that's your own. You can have paid, like a paywall, so that people could pay to have access to exclusive content. You can also mark some of the content, open to everyone. But again, you're subject to that company's policies. Or
what about Trump's social media thing?
Truth Social or whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. And then
I think people had a hard time getting on that. They were given like a waiting list.
Yeah, I think they don't have the bandwidth to handle like a ton. And then the other one that everyone moved to when Twitter and all the rest had, the big banishments of people and stuff like that was
Telegram?
Parler was the other one. Yeah.
People, what is Substack for? Is that just for articles?
So
I consistently see cool stuff on Substack, or I read things, but they're not. I don't go to Substack for it.
Yeah,
I read it somewhere else, but I consistently read cool things from there.
Yeah, so Substack, for the most part, not exclusively, but for the most part, is like a blogging platform. But it's a blogging platform that also allows you to put a paywall up. So, like, I know a lot of people. I follow Zero Hedge, which is a Twitter account that basically posts real-time like economics information, but then also writes articles on Substack. And so
is everything paid on Substack?
Well, no. Like his stuff, 1 out of every 10 will be a paid article, right? And he usually chooses like the juiciest articles, or the longest ones that he puts the most time into to be the paid ones,
I think there's a lot of cool stuff on Substack. From what I've read, I know, like I said, I've never been to it myself.
Yeah.
I've read some things outside of it, and I really...
Yeah, so Frankie has a Substack called Frankie Says, where she occasionally, like, I don't think she puts out stuff like in volume, but when she puts stuff out, like I read you the post that she wrote about abortion and the SCOTUS decision and everything like that. It was extremely eloquent and well thought out and well worded. She's like a English lit kind of person. But yeah, Substack's another option. We can look at it. I mean, if I had all the time in the world, I would also take some of the stuff that we talk about and then write articles about it, and we could post that on Substack. But that's also, a ton more time sink, to put into it. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because you do not have control of your own content.
Mm-mm.
It's one of the reasons why I'm such a big champion for Hive, is because Hive is completely decentralized. And so any one gatekeeper or node runner or someone who has these
It's
like
not going to
large
take it out.
voting blocks or something like that can't knock you off the platform. Your stuff is there forever. um, and even if they did try and knock you off, the content's still on the blockchain. It could just be like the front end, meaning the software that you use to view what's on the blockchain. Maybe they block you. So then you could just create your own front end that's just for your stuff,
Yeah.
which might actually be something that could be an option for us as well. Is I could just
Well,
have a
people have
front
been
end
telling you
created.
you're going to get taken off.
Oh no,
I feel like numerous
I'm
times
sure.
we've had people on and they're like, "Yeah, you going to say that?"
Yeah, no, I and I wear it as a badge of honor. I mean, if you're not getting your hands slapped by these platforms, you're not pushing the issue enough. I mean,
yeah, you're just sitting there and taking it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're self-censoring, which that's fine if you want to go that route, but as I'm a free speech like maximalist. I don't think anyone should have their speech restricted. And so granted, it's a private platform. We could have that argument too about whether or not they're funded by tax dollars, because they are in many cases
Oh well,
subsidized
I mean,
or
Facebook has their hands all kinds of in the government.
oh yeah,
They're
well,
totally tied together.
most of these platforms wouldn't exist if it weren't for government contracts early on to help them build up.
And I think I'm right when I told you the other day not to go back, but that Apple does the social credit shit in China. They're the ones who started all of the social credit program. They gave them all of the all of the, what is that called? Technology for that?
Oh, like the intellectual
Right. They run it.
property.
I feel I could be totally wrong, but I actually could be totally wrong. But I have read that more than once, that Apple is is the player behind all of the social
credit score stuff.
social credit scores and the technology behind that.
That's interesting.
We have to look that up though. If anyone knows.
If anyone's watching, listening, and they know about that, I'm not prepared for class. She's throwing me a curveball here, but and I don't want to be.
I said it to you the other day. You're like, no, it's not. I'm like, I'm pretty sure.
I really don't want to go down
another rabbit hole,
a Google rabbit hole live on camera, but yeah, no, a lot of these platforms wouldn't exist if it weren't for the government contracts that existed, that essentially funded them and helped them tool up in the very beginning. Like Google itself, its existence is almost due primarily to I think CIA or
we just watched that Russell Brand
Pentagon contracts,
and Microsoft is the worst.
Yeah, well,
Facebook was bad with the contracts they had with the government, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
Like I think Microsoft was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
It's tough for me to refer people to Russell Brand episodes because no, because all of the titles
have like these. What it is?
Yeah, they always have these kind of like clickbaity kind of titles. I wouldn't even know
what that one was called, but there was a Substack article. There we go. Like pull it back around about it was about all the amount of contracts these tech companies have with the government. It was on the Ring one, right? Yeah. Wasn't it on the when he was?
It's on the heels of the Ring doorbells, and how there was some story about how they were going to then use video from the Ring doorbells.
No, it has been
and share them. Well, no, so it's already been used in like police investigations.
Yeah.
Right. This was another story that leaked that said that they were going to start using those videos for training purposes.
What?
Yeah. So like training purposes for like, police, law enforcement, for security, for
that's creepy.
Yeah, like a bunch of stuff. Even their internal employees, they were going to use as training purposes. And so do they give you the option of being like, yes, okay, that's fine. Use footage from my front door for training,
they should
or
be paid for that if they're
well,
that's like pay them.
That's
like the solar panel thing.
No, that's a huge piece of this. If you're a personal data like sovereign person, you believe that your data is yours. It's not someone else's. that anytime that data gets used, you should get paid, and it should be voluntary. You should be able to say, no, I don't want you to use my data,
Yeah.
or yes, you can use my data, but you have to pay me this amount of money to do it.
It makes me think of all the marketing things, because I used to do this, where you get a call from an agency, or not, maybe it's not marketing. You'd get a call from an agency who said they want to test out brands of chocolate, or they want to
Yeah.
test out like cereal, and you go and you try it, and then you give your feedback.
Yeah.
But now they take that from you.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Your feedback just by how long you stay on a website, or like, and anytime you do anything, it's like kind of.
Well, we talked
put
about this
in.
before. The rewards cards at big box stores and stuff like that, these big companies, that's what they're using the data from. Like, you think, oh, I'm just getting a discount because I shop here so often. They love me. No, that's not it at all. They're aggregating your purchasing behavior to then create psychological profiles, as well as other kind of data sets.
So freaky.
Yeah.
It's so freaky.
Yeah.
And just in thinking of that, like, and then I don't know what we watched. We watched some documentary on this. I don't remember what it was, where they were talking about the AI on Facebook.
Yeah.
And how the algorithm is set up, and that's like, everybody knows, you Google something, all of a sudden the Facebook ads are like all over the place, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You can't get rid of them, and it's like, but that's just a tiny little piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
They are like, it depends on how long you just linger on a post, how quick you go past a post, like, and there's all this crazy stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, and just to bring this to another place, our 5-year-old has been watching YouTube, and all this is happening to kids too. Like, whatever they find, want, gravitate toward, YouTube is recommending things, and they're without our consent. Well, I mean, she takes the iPad, but like, without our consent, right? In that way, they're taking her information and using it.
Yeah.
Or they're taking, our son's information and using it. And all of that is getting put in those files. And to think about that and how deep that goes.
Yeah.
Because then Facebook stops showing you the stuff that would be maybe different, right? They start, like, everything you see is like what would be tailored to you.
Oh, yeah.
And they may not get it right. Right. So all the stuff that you might have been interested in, that might have shifted your mind, that might have maybe changed it a little, or maybe would have opened a door for you, isn't being shown.
Yeah.
It's real. I mean, if you think of the sphere of influence of all that, it is intense.
It is scary to think about the level of influence that something like YouTube would have on a 4, 5, 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Because that algo can feed them stuff that pushes them in different directions,
and they are so open,
and they're also, like, some kids are more precocious, and they're like, they're not as subjected to the algorithm and just what's served to them. If they're specifically trying to find something, they're going to go find it. They're not just going to deal with what's served up to them.
If you're 5 and can't type, and you're just picking what you see.
Well, the more mechanical you are, I guess, with using YouTube, or the more kind of like, zombified you are, the deeper they can take you down that rabbit hole by just kind of like moving things in different directions.
It's really scary.
And if you compulsively are just hitting the next video, or just watching the next video that's served to you.
And then you think about, this is really creepy to me, just talking about YouTube videos, all these adults on YouTube videos that dress like sexy teenagers and act like kids and say stupid shit, like, and all the undertone jokes and stuff, like, and obviously no adult is watching this.
Yeah.
I mean, any adult who does watch this is looking at it for the girls. Like, that would be, I think.
Well, no, any adult who's watching it is seriously mentally ill, I think.
I don't know. And then you,
because it's obviously designed for little kids.
It's designed for kids, but it has all these, like,
it's like adult references.
Of adult references. Yeah. And it's really, I mean, first of all, YouTube, I think, went downhill the minute they started doing unboxing videos. The commercialism, oh my God, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Well, now YouTube doesn't really so much have like the unboxing videos, because those are more short form. And so those things now exist
like
on Instagram or on
reels and
TikTok or
stuff.
stuff like that. YouTube more wanted the long form because it keeps you in place longer in order to advertise to you, right? And so they wanted that content that keeps you there for a long time. And some of these shows that are there for kids, and these kind of like little I know what you're trying to say, like the subliminal things that get put in, or even the just like chance, like what got me to pull the iPad away last night was some show that's one of these, adults running around acting like talking in high pitched voices, like they're little kids.
Like, do people actually try to become this in
And
life? I mean, I don't. Why?
And the one male actor who's acting like a fucking moron, has his phone, and they're talking about like, winning video games or whatever. And he's like, I win this video game every single time I swipe right. It's called Tinder. And I was like, what? Nope. Boop. Like, no, hold on. Which immediately immediately precipitated a blow up, from her.
I looked them up, and tons of kids her age watch this.
Yeah.
And, and people, so people are saying, well, YouTube isn't meant for 13 or under, so it's a parental job, right? But like there are good things on YouTube that can really.
But here's the thing. If it's not meant for 13 or under, but you have tons of content that's obviously for 13 and under,
I mean,
then you're full of shit.
And in that, I was watching one of their videos just to get a sense of what she was watching.
Yeah.
And they hit up a McDonald's, a Starbucks, and then they have one of the things they have to do is go and get candy from a strange man at the park. Like, and this is being shown to like 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and it's like, I don't know. I couldn't believe it. So that kind of shit is shit.
Oh my God.
I can't.
It is.
Makes me want to like
puke. There's so much, how should I call it? Just disingenuousness. Is that a word? Disingenuity, disingenuousness. I think it's disingenuous.
Unauthentic.
Yeah, like no, not even just inauthentic, but intentionally misleading aspects of our culture right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking politics tonight, so to speak, but if you're talking about like the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever, that does literally nothing to reduce inflation, right? Or even if it does, it'll reduce it in one little area, but then explode it in another area. It's like completely preposterous, right? That's a completely fraudulent use of that phrase and makes people think that you're trying to help when truthfully you're trying to advance a different agenda, right? Platforms like social media platforms that tell you that, well, technically it's not supposed to be intended for children under a certain age. And then they have tons of content on there that's geared toward it, right? That's disingenuous.
That actually says ages 3 to 5, like on it.
Eliza Blue, who's on Twitter and essentially makes it her life's work to call out and identify grooming and human trafficking and pedophilia on tech platforms. She'll tell you that they profess to have the algo go out there and find these things to stop them from happening, when she just has lists of these accounts that have been reported
and they don't do anything,
and reported, and they still continue to stay out there. Meanwhile, they censor political content,
right?
Because they find that more damaging
than
pedophilia and grooming and human trafficking shit that's on their platform, and child pornography as well. Like a lot of these platforms have been known to do that.
Is this like, I mean, they were just a big story about people like who put like videos of their kids and make money off of it, and then they get to like put it in an account for their kid one day, but then they found all these like crazy things going on, like all these downloads of their video of their child.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think that's just crazy. But like, there's just so many scary people out there. Like, I don't know what happened to our morals or our values. And I don't say that from a religious point of view. I say it from just like a human point of view.
Yeah.
Like
people
in general, just, we don't have the moral value. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Moral values. Like,
well, it's also become a scenario where in the technology world, there are these kind of dark pools of stuff happening. And so if it's not directly in your face, you're not even thinking about it as an average everyday person. Like, speaking of the algo and stuff like that, those people might not even get that stuff served to them. They might have to go out and specifically find that somewhere, right? Whereas an average everyday person isn't getting served that stuff by the algo, so they don't even know it exists, right? Like, so you could spend your entire life on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube and not know those things are on there, right? Had you not specifically searched them out or something. And that's another issue with it, is there's just so many of these different areas that are hidden away, and they're specifically hidden away. And so as long as there's not too much attention called to it, the tech platforms don't really do anything about it. They just kind of let it persist. But they do
for you.
Yeah. But for you. But our content is spam. And we have to protect people from spam. We don't have to protect kids from sexual predators, but spam, oh shit.
And grooming, and like, oh God, it's maddening. And I feel like it's even changed from when our oldest daughter was young.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll be 13. So like, I feel like it is super changed from then even.
Yeah.
And I would like to go back to the 80s and 90s as a parent now. This time as a parent.
Yeah.
I want to send the kids out. See you later. Come back when the street lights come on, because that's how it all works.
The problems just seem so much simpler to deal with if we were parents in the 80s and 90s, but I don't know.
I don't know. But there's probably other issues.
Yeah.
But this is like an intense issue. And it is like, and if you think about everything kids are handed, from school to the walking through a supermarket, which should be an easy fucking thing.
Oh yeah.
You walk through, like, or Bed Bath and Beyond. You know how I hate going there with the kids.
Well, yeah.
Because you got to go through this whole aisle of candy that's eye level for kids, and you're stuck there. And it's like, this is wrong. Then pay my dentist bill for
the cereal aisle. Okay. Ugh. The sugary cereals,
all at eye level.
They put it eye level for children because they know that that's who it's going to appeal to.
It's not right.
They're going to make their parents' life a living hell unless they buy.
I know, it sucks.
Freaking sugary
cereal.
It's
like the kids are meaningless except for the commercialism and the money that their parents use to get them things.
Well, and therein also lies kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the program, is patronizing establishments that you don't necessarily have to go to the full extent to be like, we're going to patronize establishments that have our our view of the world.
Just community places.
But yeah, community places are they're not sitting there trying to take advantage of you. They're looking to actually provide a valuable service or product or something like that. And they're doing it, probably at a more expensive price. Yeah. But that more expensive price might get you a product that's not some cheap Chinese manufactured piece of crap, right? Like, it might actually be something that lasts.
I've noticed recently on Amazon, when I look for things, like when I was looking for dishes.
Dude, all the Chinese companies are the ones that first come up in the search.
Yeah, you have to look so I just wanted a non-toxic dishware, which is like, you would think easy to find, but not. And because it has to be made in the United States if you don't want the lead levels and everything else that goes in it. So, and then you have to use, like, there are certain glazes that are used. And if you use your dishes a lot, like in a microwave, which is shitty for a dish, but if you put a lot of hot food on it, if you want to get a non-toxic dish, it has to pretty much be from the United States. I think Sweden, or there's a few other countries. And it took how many weeks was I looking for dishes?
Like 2-3 weeks.
I was looking for weeks. I couldn't find it. I finally had to, and then I did find it on Amazon, but like, it took me 3 weeks to get a name. I couldn't go searching through Amazon. I had to search through elsewhere.
That's also kind of a rule of thumb that's also helpful in trying to kind of like fight back against the algo, is go somewhere else that you trust to find the answer or the information, or like specifically if you're looking for a product, go look for reputable product review blogs or websites and things like that. Again, you also have to look out for, there's a ton of corporate sponsored,
you wouldn't know it is
review like websites and stuff like that. But so if you can go to a reputable website, and find a recommendation for, XYZ product, then start your search looking for the best price for XYZ product. Granted, most people will say, oh, well, if XYZ product is out of my price range, then, I need to find something else. Well, that's fine. Then at least you know kind of what ballpark you're in and what you're looking for. Whereas if you're using Amazon as your search engine,
you can't do it. You can't find it. It's really crazy.
Do it right now. Like if you're watching live or
find
if
a made
you're
in the
watching the recorded
USA
version, just go on Amazon and look for a generic, like really when it comes down to like electronics and stuff like that, just look for a generic, like, extension cord or something like that. With the exception of the paid promoted one that gets the highlight,
sometimes
which often is still the Chinese company.
Not
like the top 15, 20 results are all going to be Chinese or foreign made products that have like, and they're obviously that way because you see the name. Like the name is like Otanu, like, and you're like,
what was that?
You're like, what?
Sorry.
You're like, what company is this? I've never heard of them before.
Sometimes it's the same product, but 5 different companies that have it.
Yes.
But it was really, that was a tough one to try to get that.
Yeah.
And but I also use Amazon often to get organic vegan food that is not local.
Yeah.
So that becomes, when we were just talking about earlier, I was like, well, I kind of get the organic non-GMO food from there.
Yeah.
But we were saying we love Trader Joe's, not necessarily Whole Foods, which is Amazon. That's the same, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's I would go to Trader Joe's before I would go to like Whole Foods. Yeah, like they're more hippie than they are. Like they definitely don't seem like they're trying to dominate the world like Jeff Bezos or some of the other, big company billionaires that are out there.
Yeah.
Just it seems like they're trying to provide good products for decent prices. Some of their products are better than others.
Their prices really haven't gone up with everything going on.
That has been fairly interesting is they're vertically integrated. And so their pricing model hasn't shown the same susceptibility to inflation that a lot of the other companies have, that I guess they have a large range of product suppliers, and whoever has the best price they'll go with.
And I feel like with a lot of their things too, like the maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but I've always felt like the vegetables that
Hold on, keep talking about this. I have to run upstairs and I have to yell at a child for jumping up and down on the floor while we're trying to record. But I keep going with that.
I think that at Trader Joe's, when they have like the vegetables that are not used, they actually use them in some of their frozen kind of things, and I enjoy it. I think that I think that Trader Joe's has a good hold on things, but at the same time, the convenience of Whole Foods and the convenience of Amazon and the convenience of like those places that are closer is really it's really hard to get rid of. There's like a convenience level that you have to just like get on your phone, do it, and then you're gone.
So obviously, I go upstairs to yell at the children, and they're like, "No one's jumping up and down." I was like, "Of course you are. I can hear the squeaking."
Not jumping.
Come on, buddy. Like, one of
our
them.
Our daughter
was
has like one of these, like her legs always going. And...
Oh, I'm not jumping. Yeah, whatever. So I'm sorry.
I don't even know what I was saying. I was just saying the convenience of things is rough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it's a doable situation. But like when we're talking organic, non-GMO, vegan proteins and stuff, that's just not easy to find. I suppose you would go to the supplier, but sometimes they point you to Amazon.
No, well, if their only means of distribution is Amazon, you might be stuck having to use that, right? Because actually a lot of businesses have been built over the last 20 years with Amazon or one of the other large distribution companies being the main distribution network. Because if you're building a company and creating a product or something, then in addition to that, having to get distribution and get it out to like a national or international
Yeah.
market, it's very difficult to build that from the ground up. So there have been a lot of companies that have been built simply assuming,
that.
oh, Amazon will distribute the stuff, we'll just make it, right? That's I guess that's kind of okay, because I mean, like, but at the same time, it still leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, because you're still supporting an organization that,
Well, look, if you
You
live
know.
in a town like where we live, and it's possible to get something close and to support your community, like we were talking Starbucks. Randomly, I get the kids Starbucks, probably more than randomly, because it's by the playground, or it's on our way home, and our local coffee shops close at like 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So like randomly I'll do that. But for the most part, when I take them out for coffee, I go to the local cafes,
Mm.
And so if you can do that, like the other day, we got coffee beans from the coffee shop.
Mhm.
Granted, they were a lot more expensive.
Well, yeah.
It did not last as long, but they were delicious.
Oh, yeah.
They
Well,
were way better.
I think that's another conversation that also needs to be had a lot more often, is the idea of quantity over quality, because the American lifestyle for a number of decades now has always been more is better, right? But there's been a very muted or non-existent conversation about the actual quality of things that you're eating or using or
Or how it
buying on
comes
a daily
to,
basis.
like
Well,
what
yes,
happens
yeah,
and the way it comes to you. Like our local coffee shop is a sustainable fair trade coffee shop.
yeah.
But we've done good. We do, like, we were using coffee twice a day,
Mhm.
but now we use coffee, we fill a little extra, and then we have iced coffee at the end of
Yeah.
the day. That's like that. I think we could do the whole local coffee bean thing this
Well,
way.
in the more is better kind of mentality too, is the wastefulness that comes with it, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh well, this is so cheap, I can just buy a whole bunch of it, and then if I don't
Yeah.
use it, I'll just throw it out and I'll get more of it,
Well,
right?
I don't like to throw out coffee.
No, I know that, but I mean, like, look back at people that were part of the Greatest Generation, right? They didn't waste
They
shit,
didn't waste
man.
anything.
Like, stuff didn't get thrown out until they had used it 3 or 4 times, right? And then if you want to look at kind of like from a more kind of like multicultural standpoint or something like that. I mean, like, when you look at American Indians, or you look at other kind of indigenous peoples in different
Oh
countries,
no, they used to, like, if they hunted a deer or something,
they would use
they used
every single part of
every
the
last
animal.
piece.
They
They used the sinews.
Yeah.
I mean, they used everything. I think it's really fucking amazing,
Yeah.
actually.
which kind of happens in our culture on a from a corporate standpoint, right? And
You
there's all
mean
kinds
by-
of issues there too, because when you
Do you mean by the workers?
overproduce something, no, I'm saying like a lot of companies that produce a certain material good, or if they produce a commodity, or if they produce like beef or something like that,
Oh, they'll
there's
use,
other
like,
byproducts
the
that then
fat
get
or the
sent out
lard.
elsewhere. And there's all kinds of issues with that too, because those byproducts, then if there's a surplus of those, they end up getting used in ways that aren't healthy or aren't good, and so now you have other problems, right? But I think from an individual or a family standpoint, if you can embrace some of those aspects of, don't always worry about having everything that you want under the sun, right? Like, have the things that you need and make sure that they're good quality, right? And take care of them, as
That's
opposed to
like a
just letting
simple
them
thing.
turn to shit.
Like, we did a bunch of food. We bought a bunch of food just to have, like, in storage. And one thing is like dried beans. They're cheaper, actually,
Mhm.
but they taste so much better.
Mm.
And you can get a huge quantity, and rather than like just the cans that people get, which are
Yeah.
bad for you.
Yeah.
Which, even if they're BPA free, it's not a great thing. But, like, you can make like such a like the dried beans when cooked are so much, I think, tastier and richer in flavor.
Yeah.
And it's better.
Well, and typically they have no additives.
Oh, no, yeah.
I mean, like, the dried beans are just basically beans that have been, dehydrated,
Yeah.
essentially. Whereas canned beans typically have some kind of preservative or additive included in it, and then you have concerns about the leaching of aluminum and whatnot that
Yeah.
might be inside of the can or tin.
And I don't like the, like,
I
black
don't
beans.
think they use tin anymore, but
I don't like, no, I don't think so. I don't like black beans in the can, but when I did them in the Instant Pot from the dried beans, and it like took no time at all.
Yeah.
They were delicious.
Yeah. They hold up better too, because I found that, like, canned foods turn to mush really easily.
I also think they
because
go bad
because they're wet
easily. Like
packed.
I won't ever keep, like if I got a thing of refried beans open,
Yeah.
I will throw out what I don't use. I do not keep that. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like the minute it hits the air,
Yeah.
like you don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
You know.
That was like what's funny is I never really asked you about this, but I mean we kind of went kind of down the prepper down the prepper road. I mean like we saw the price of food rising and stuff like that, and I was like, look, we should get some dried goods and stuff like that just in case. And you know, there's the mini farm out in the front yard now, and all kinds of other stuff that we're doing. It was like we almost kind of went down this, you know, prepper.
Well, yeah, but we're using the food, so it's not fully prepper.
Well, yeah, no,
somebody who was prepping would not touch.
It's not
that
like
shit.
I went out and bought 200 pounds of MREs, like
No. No.
which I don't think we could eat half the stuff that's in the MREs. But
No, but we have and we use it already. Like
Yeah.
we're using it, daily.
Yeah.
But I think it's I'm really enjoying the dried beans. I just need to get the dried pinto beans now.
So should we talk about the egg thing?
We can.
Okay. We might out ourselves and everyone will be like, oh, you're such unoriginal people, or you're not
We're
true.
not. We're totally well, no, we're totally original.
Yeah. So this goes in the line of like, you're not a true libertarian.
Well, no, but we need to preface this.
You're not a real vegan if you eat certain things. Or...
But you have to preface this with, I've been feeling like my son needed something extra. I feel like he was pulling himself and pushing himself towards like all of these breads, and then like vegan meats have a lot of bread in them. A lot of them are gluten, and also a lot of soy for a young boy isn't always great. So I felt like and I do think not everyone can be a total vegan. I think there are, like my mother would have said, she couldn't have done it.
Well, no, there's some people that have very bad health complications that arise if they try and eat
and he's growing
vegan. They end up going the opposite end of the spectrum. They end up eating carnivore or something.
Well, we're not going in that direction, but that's what started it, was thinking about our son. That's apparently you had an egg sandwich a while back.
Yeah.
I did not.
There might have been a cheat meal once near the beginning of things.
Yeah. Mister, is there egg in that bun?
Yeah.
No, yeah. But that's what got me thinking about it. I was looking at Cole and I was like, I think maybe he needs something.
Yeah.
And so if we bring it in the house, it's not just, you can't just you have to give the option to everyone.
Yeah.
And they're kids. They're not making the choices. They're not out there like saying, I want to spend this. I want to do this. I want to do that. Right. And I don't think it's fair quite to say, I think he really likes that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's fair to withhold that for our own ideals all the time.
Yeah. But
I'm not bringing meat in the house.
Well, we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that in the future.
We're not.
But
what? You want to bring meat in the house?
I only if it's wild, caught or hunted.
Do you know that Boston is having a bacon shortage?
Well, that's fine. There's no bacon shortage if you go shoot a hog in Florida. But
Stop.
Anyway,
stop.
But no, and what's crazy is like there's crossover between that conversation and the egg conversation, because the way that we went about kind of reintroducing eggs into our diet,
and they're not only all eggs,
is we wanted to make sure that they were produced. We're not allowed to have chickens on our property. I'm very short ways away from just saying, to hell with ordinance and going with it. But we wanted eggs that were produced the way we would have produced them on our own property.
Right. Non-GMO feed.
No antibiotics.
Free ranging.
No growth hormones.
No growth hormones.
Basically as close to, wild type.
Happy.
Well, not just happy, as close to wild type eggs as we could get. Right. And so that's what we looked for. We wanted a farm that was local. It was small.
This one was a small farm.
The eggs are not cheap.
They weren't that bad. I thought they were $6.
Yeah, they were.
Or no, it was $3 for a dozen.
No. It was not $3 for a dozen.
Or $6.
No, it was $9 for a dozen and a half. It was more expensive if you bought it by the single dozen. So I think we bought 2 single dozens. But so anyway, it was slightly more expensive, even despite the fact that eggs have been crazy as far as inflation goes. But yeah, the goal being that we wanted food that was as close to nature as possible and not
Yeah.
manipulated or overly controlled and things like that. And so I really think that needs to be what guides us going forward.
Yeah.
Is if we're going to be eating food, let's make sure it's as close to nature as possible, as opposed to
I mean,
something that
I
has
don't
tons of
like.
additives
I
or
mean, I've had
factory manufactured.
wild meat and stuff before, and I didn't like it at all. I hate
Well, it's
that
fine. You don't have to eat
gamey
it.
taste and everything.
That's fine. You
Ugh.
don't have to eat it. But that is one thing that I think, from my standpoint, it's also a survival skill, right? Being able to hunt and do that, you're talking about being able to provide a high
Well, you can
level
do
of
that and have
caloric
fun with
intake.
that.
I'm sure Cole will try it. Some of it he will not like, and some of it he will.
But I don't
Um,
mind and you should have seen our son when he had
he was like overly excited.
he was overjoyed at having an egg.
Yeah.
And he could not control himself. It was like
Yeah.
and then it continued.
Yeah.
And I still won't let him have it every day, though. I don't think that's healthy.
No. It's not something that we're gonna do every single day of his life. It's gonna be here and there. It's also gonna be something where I don't think we're ever gonna do dairy again.
No
I
dairy.
don't think
Dairy
we'll do butter or
is
milk.
so bad.
I
actually just learned how to make vegan butter, and I think the last batch was really good.
Yeah, the biggest difference is, and this is what we were talking about in terms of like dairy alternatives. A lot of the dairy alternatives out in the the vegan plant-based space or whatever are really bad for you, because they're essentially nut oils or palm oil, very
but the cheese
heavy
is
on
not.
palm oil and stuff like that.
Cheese is blatantly nut.
Well, no, I mean the original versions of non-dairy or vegan cheese were all oil based,
Yeah.
But even still, in some of those cheeses, you always have to watch, because it might be cashew milk or oat milk based or whatever, almond milk based, but then they'll sneak in, like they have to add fat.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes it cheese essentially. And so how they add fat is what you have to watch out for.
Yeah.
And so if they're adding fat in the form of seed oils or palm oil or something like that, or canola oil, those things are all
But
awful
that's not
for
just
you.
a vegan thing. That thing is across the board.
Oh, yeah,
Anytime
no,
you get
100%.
potato chips, you're
Yeah.
looking at sunflower oil. You're looking at that's across. That's not just a vegan
Yeah,
thing.
no, it's not just a vegan thing. No, but it's and this is the thing, like these kind of like health not guidelines, but these common kind of like health standpoints or viewpoints, they cross all of these different diets, right? Like all of these
Mhm.
different diets are if you kind of look at these things from the standpoint of how do I get my food intake down to kind of the most wholesome form,
Yeah.
right? Typically it's the closest to nature that you can get, right?
Well, I mean, and also think about, though, just I don't know if this is ancillary or not, but think about like all the food that is targeted to kids
Mhm.
and the amount of sugar and the amount of flavoring and like that kind of stuff that's targeted to them.
Yeah.
So that when you give them some, like one of the recipes that the kids used to love that I used to make was rice and cardamom seeds and apple. And I would cook it with milk. And it was like a real kind of subtle laughing chicken. It was a real can't.
My mother's trolling in the comments saying squirrel meat is good.
Yeah. But like, and then I would give them this, but it was like a subtle taste, a beautiful subtle taste.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
Yeah.
But as they got older and all of a sudden they were given all kinds of food everywhere they went, and they started their palate changed.
Yeah.
And then they don't want that subtleness anymore, and so like there's only so much you can do.
Well, yeah. So I was actually I think tonight on Forest Mommy's podcast. She has on a guy who runs his own podcast about health, and he was actually like a former, I forget if he was like a fitness model or like a bodybuilder, but he had an excerpt where he was talking with a guest, and they basically went through the idea that most calories, if it's not protein, then it's carbohydrates or it's oil, right? Or it's carbohydrates or it's fat. And your body, for the most part, craves those things, or those things can be drug-like, right? And so you have to be very careful with the types of carbs that you intake. You have to be very careful about the types of fats that you intake. And so if you're and any of those fats and carbs that aren't as bad aren't as tasty either,
Yeah.
right? And
Although I
so
think avocado oil is awesome.
no, the avocado, I mean, like that's what I fried the eggs in. I mean, like it came
Yeah.
out fantastic. But yeah,
Well,
it's
like in Ayurvedic, they eat ghee,
clarified
the
butter.
clarified butter. I think that's still, I mean, that would still be bad, I think, as far as dairy goes.
No, I think
Or does
that's
clarified butter get rid of the
I think clarified butter is probably something that's closer to what we'll be sticking to, which is more like avocado oil, olive oil, kind of those
I don't
like
know. I'd have to look at what
whole
clarified butter
type
is.
oils,
But I feel like Indian diets, for the most part, are very healthy. Our
Yeah.
Vedic diets are very healthy, very healthy.
Yeah.
And then the tea, they have all the teas that go with the vata and the different personalities in Ayurveda.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the quality of the food or the ingredients that you're intaking into your body. If you're taking in processed crap,
Yeah, which is what we sell to kids.
That's,
just be honest.
that's what you're
I
going to
just
feel
found
like.
out Takis, like all the kids love Takis. They have MSG.
Ugh.
And we are sitting here and just commercializing it for kids. It's crazy. Oh, the palm oil is bad for the gorillas, right?
Yeah, so palm oil is bad sustainability wise. So Matt Rice commented, I've read that palm oil is only bad because of its sustainability aspect. Yeah, it is like it's not even just destructive. It is freaking like World War III nuclear bomb for the environment kind of situation. Like they have entire islands in Southeast Asia
That have been just
that used to be covered in rainforest that have now just been turned into rows of these palm trees that create palm oil. And the oil itself is not like awful, but it's also not great. Like it's kind of like middle of the road.
I always think of canola oil as the worst oil.
Canola is pretty bad. Actually, some people would argue that seed oils are really bad, especially when you cook with them, because apparently canola oil has a higher smoking point, I think, than some of the seed oils. And so those seed oils, if they get to the smoking point, they actually create carcinogenic.
So seed oil is what? Sunflower oil?
Yeah, like sunflower oil, safflower seed oil, my brain's like peanut oil is another one.
Smaller thing.
Yeah, it's those small kind of like hard nuts and things like that and legumes that you would have to press tons and tons and tons and tons of them in order to make it. Not to mention the fact that when they make those oils, the refining process includes a lot of chemicals to then extract those oils. Whereas you have an olive, you press an olive, you get a lot of oil out of it, right? It's a lot closer
with a
right?
little salt and like dip your bread in.
Oh yeah.
It's like I don't need butter anymore with bread. Like that makes me so happy.
Yeah. Olive oil is the foundation of the Mediterranean diet, which a lot of people have seen a lot of success in.
And dried chickpeas turned into hummus.
Well, yeah, with olive oil and tahini. But yeah, it's the foundation of the Mediterranean diet. It's the foundation of a couple of other diets that are out there. Avocado oil, again, you press an avocado and you get a lot of oil out of it, right? And so if you think about the equivalent number of avocados you would have to eat as a whole avocado to get, say, like a couple of tablespoons of oil,
to like the sunflower seeds,
you might only have to eat like 2 or 3 avocados. Whereas the sunflower seeds, you would have to eat bags of sunflower seeds in order to get the amount of oil that you use to cook.
He says they're in everything. They're absolutely in almost everything that's processed.
Yeah,
but I'm glad the avocado. A few years ago, you never heard of avocado oil.
Yeah,
and refined coconut oil. Use refined coconut oil. Refined coconut oil has no taste of coconut whatsoever, and and it's so easy.
Yeah, it's so the coconut oil discussion is kind of like ongoing. I think there are a lot of people that are pro coconut oil and anti coconut oil. I think it's okay in moderation.
If you're just oil,
if you're using,
it's gonna kill you.
I think if you're using a ton of it. I think it also suffers from the same issues where olive oil and avocado oil don't have the same issues as coconut oil. That smoke point thing
can go hot.
So if like you wouldn't want to fry in coconut oil because of how high it is.
Like you can bake with
it. You could add some stuff in your baking and things like that. Yeah. I mean, like we use it occasionally on the griddle top for like pancakes and stuff like that. But we're not getting to the point where it's smoking. We're just getting to the point where it kind of like coats the pan itself.
How did we get here?
I don't know. We were talking
just went
about.
off. Was there something else we wanted to
We
hit on?
went from eggs and not being true
we're doing the
vegans
eggs.
to
And I'll tell you what, I love that egg I had. That over easy egg.
Yeah.
It had been 7 years.
Yeah.
7 years?
Yes.
Oh my, or 6 years.
6
and a half, maybe.
We started right before Piper was conceived.
No, the whole pregnancy I was vegan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, conceived. Yeah, that's
I think 6 years. Yeah.
So but it was really good.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. Everyone was okay with it, even though even our 5-year-old who never had it ever. She had a
she prefers scrambled though. She didn't really love the over easy.
I don't know why you gave her over easy.
She wanted to try it. She was interested. So
but she says that, they're vegan if they're humane and not tortured and traumatized.
Even the scrambled, I always thought like when you made scrambled eggs when you were a little kid.
Yeah.
Right? Did you add milk?
No.
Okay. I always added milk.
What?
You would add milk or a little bit of cream to your scrambled eggs. It makes them like fluffier and kind of that thing. Yeah. So all throughout my life, I thought you had to add like whole milk or cream to your scrambled eggs. It wasn't until I was like in college where someone was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like,
"You do that?
You just whip up the eggs and you just cook them. Like, what are you doing?"
If you want to put a little cheese or vegan cheese or something in it, yeah.
No, throughout my entire adolescence,
spinach and tomatoes.
Throughout my entire adolescence, the way I cooked scrambled eggs was adding whole milk or cream.
Yeah, that's just weird.
When you
I think you used to tell me that you should do that. I should do that, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can tell you, it creates big billowy like scrambled eggs.
But you don't need big billowy. You just want that taste.
Well, yeah, no. What it ends up being is filler. Is essentially what it is.
That's what
I don't know what got me on that. I guess maybe I don't know if my mother's still watching. Like I don't know if that was like family tradition or something. I have no idea. But
so we got on eggs.
Yeah, but no, we were talking about the egg thing after we were talking about local sustainable farming and kind of like taking care of local vendors.
I don't know what we're going to do when it comes to the wintertime because you're not going to be able to go to a local farm. There is, and if you don't want to go to Whole Foods, who does have a sustainable and non-antibiotic, non-GMO kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if we'll just give it up again over. I think our son would be very, very disappointed if we.
We'll see. I mean, like we might have to find an alternative. There's also, we were discussing the other day that chickens have laying periods during the year and then they have non-laying periods during the year.
Yeah.
So if you were like a farm family, there was periods of time during the year that you didn't have eggs unless you water glassed them or preserved them or pickled them, right? Like that's how you would preserve your eggs, and then that got you through that period of time where you didn't have fresh eggs, and then the hens would start laying.
I am not that woman. You gave me a bag of cucumbers today, and I was like, fuck.
Oh my God, let me tell you about this.
He needs to figure out what to do with them. Have fun with that. I'm not pickling 20. We don't even have a can.
This is the most amazing. Like this is the probably the zenith.
Although
now,
I will have a cucumber sandwich
of my farming this year. Okay, I went out to the cucumber plants are just freaking kicking ass right now.
And the tomatoes are
the tomatoes have been fantastic.
They're so good.
But they haven't been producing as much, and that damn deer got in and ate some of the tops off. But so I had 20 pounds of cucumbers that I pulled in today.
I'll have a cucumber sandwich.
There was I'll take recommendations on what to do with cucumbers too, because
I would like to pickle them, but I am not very good at that. I can quick pickle, but I don't think they last very long. And so, I love to quick pickle.
Yeah.
But the kids love pickles. If I could figure out how to actually pickle pickles,
I might have to.
I think you need canners. Right? You need to can it.
I might have to invest in a
canning
pickling bucket or something.
No, you have to get a canner.
Well, no, they also have
they
also have kind of standalone buckets that you can
just throw them in the bucket,
do pickles in, and then you kind of pump out the air.
Oh, well, whatever.
We'll see. We'll have to. I have to come up.
You'll have to go on Amazon because there's no other way you're going to get it in time. No. That's what I'm saying. That's called more than convenience. It's called the only way at this point.
I might have to build my own. And then this will be the last podcast because then we'll die from eating pickles that were made in a self-made pickling
But see,
bucket.
there is the moment that Amazon comes around.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, it's hot in here.
It is. I think that's it. We are
Did we
steaming.
talk about everything?
Oh yeah. I mean, like this was kind of like a hodgepodge.
Hopefully we get Shane Hazel.
Yes, yeah. I think Shane is going to reschedule.
And Emma Dunwoody is going to come on. She is an awesome human design.
Yep.
Just guru. I just love her. And a friend of mine is going to come on, who's a spoken word poet and works in Newark.
Yeah, that'll be
youth.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting episode. We're trying to get Maj Trey on with him because we want to talk about essentially nonviolence, or how to de-escalate violence,
conflict resolution, and like, so my friend works in Irvington and Newark.
Yep.
Maj
works in Philly,
and they have two totally separate ways they go about it, and yet there's so many similarities, and I would love for them to meet. So hopefully we can get that on. But Emma's going to be an awesome one. I'm excited to have Emma. She'll be coming in from Australia.
And then let's see, next week we have Beck coming on. Beck has an awesome story about her kind of like personal health journey, lost a lot of weight and got a lot more healthy in her life. But on top of that, we were kind of drawn into a conversation on Twitter about spirituality, things like crystals and the zodiac and all other kinds of like spirituality and stuff like that. It was prompted by a post that essentially called them evil, and that like religious, specifically Judeo-Christian people, shouldn't be led astray by those things, that they're distractions, right? And so we're going to talk, I think.
But you know, it's interesting, just really quick side note, having watched The Anarchist, the show on HBO, I was like, anarchists are spiritual?
Oh,
like,
hardcore.
I couldn't even believe that shit. I was like, I
fit
in more now.
There's Christian anarchists. They're like, you know, hippie-dippy spiritual type anarchists. There's all kinds.
I would love to hear about the anarchist spiritual world.
Well, I don't know if Beck necessarily considers herself an anarchist. We'll talk. She's definitely libertarian, but we'll definitely talk about kind of spirituality and religion and that kind of thing, as well as her health journey and what she's on. And then we also have, I put him off for a couple of months because we were kind of going through this retooling and moving around and all kinds of other stuff. Scott's Business is going to be on, Scott Cunningham. He's going to be talking about crypto, and we're going to talk about whether or not crypto failed. I think we have a dog visitor. No, we have a message that's been delivered to us. Poor daddy. Hold on. Is this for public consumption? I don't know. Oh, he needs more time on his Switch. Yeah. We will handle that in 2 minutes here. So, but yeah, we have Scott's Business, aka Scott Cunningham, coming on to talk about crypto and whether or not crypto failed.
Scott Cunningham is the name of a very, very famous witch, pagan witch.
I was unaware, but
he wrote tons of books.
You can ask Scott if he knows that.
Well, that he shares a name.
But yeah, we're going to talk about, especially when it came to the Canadian trucker strike and some of these other things that happened, and the confiscation of Bitcoins and stuff like that. We're going to talk about whether or not
interesting
crypto failed, and we're also going to talk about some of these other pieces of legislation that have come out regulating crypto, and then also we'll talk about some of the exchanges that essentially over leveraged themselves and have now since gone bankrupt. So tons to talk about in the crypto world with Scott.
We have a lot coming up.
Yeah, we have tons of episodes coming up. So and like we said a minute ago, we're going to try and reschedule Shane Hazel. I think he's really busy.
Shane Hazel back.
Yeah, I
really wanted to meet him. He's an ex-Marine.
He's a crazy go-getter. He's an awesome personality. So we'll definitely have Shane on. And with that, that's all we got. You got anything else to say?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Have a wonderful week.
Yeah, have a wonderful week. We will see you next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern live. Peace, everyone.